So this is originally going to be part of another video I'm going to be making, but honestly, this story kind of deserves its own video. So yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, I guess. So it's a weird story. It's also a very emotional story. So if you're, I'm gonna put a trigger warning here for suicidal ideation, trans stuff like dysphoria, and pregnancy. So yeah. So in case you guys don't know, I am a trans guy. I've been on testosterone now for about 2.5 years. I was very inconsistent last year because I couldn't really afford it, so I was rationing out my testosterone. This happened right before I went on HRT. So, yeah. So, I had a phantom pregnancy when I was 19. Um, it's a weird fun fact I bring up sometimes. And I bring it up mainly because a lot of people don't know what a phantom pregnancy is. And if you don't know what it is, basically my body and mind thought I was pregnant when I wasn't. So, a lot of AFAB individuals will feel sick in the morning or feel like vomiting in the mornings. Um, their period stops. They start getting cravings, they get needing to pee more, and something that is very unusual is feeling kicks, even though if you're very early along, you don't feel kicks in around that time. So I was very early along in my phantom pregnancy. In that sense that like I wouldn't have been able to feel kicks even if it was a real pregnancy, but because it was a phantom pregnancy, doesn't care. You're gonna feel kicks. Um, and so yeah. So basically, you start feeling this a lot of pregnancy symptoms, even though you're not pregnant. And so yeah. As you could guess, things happened, and which I just won't get into. It's no one's business. And I had taken the morning after pill, and at the time, I was a wee babby in the sense that I didn't understand a lot of certain things. I was still new to certain things and all that, and so I didn't know about phantom pregnancies. I didn't know that your period could disappear for a while, even though mine were very irregular. Um, but yeah, but around that time, I was going into my first year of college of, well, actual college. I did a PLC course before my actual college years. So I was going through quite a lot of stress at the time because I was just starting college. I was getting used to a new routine because I commute 2 hours away. And so there was a lot going on. And stress can be a definite factor into a phantom pregnancy. And so, of course, me being new, me starting college and getting used to all of that, um, there was a lot going on. And naturally, my period doesn't show up. And I'm like, okay, didn't think much of it. It's only one day. It's only one period. But maybe it will come along, you know, whatever. It doesn't come along. We go into the second month in October, and that's when I kept needing to pee. Constantly keep needing to pee. And I was like, okay, this is strange. Um, but whatever. And also I had taken the morning after pill within 72 hours. So realistically how this phantom pregnancy even came about is just it's kind of funny because basically everything's basically everything was stacking against me in terms of me being actually pregnant. Um, but somehow my body still was convinced it was pregnant. Um, and that's the funny thing about phantom pregnancies. It's either it affects people who really want to have a baby or people who really don't want to have a baby. And I fall in the latter. Especially because I'm a trans guy, the idea of pregnancy freaks me out, and just giving birth. And also, I just believe my body will not be able to handle childbirth. So, yeah, it was not fun coming to the conclusion that I could be pregnant. But especially because I was 19, I was a wee baby. I didn't understand pregnancy. I didn't have a lot of things I didn't know about the reproductive cycle, that type of stuff. There was a lot of things I didn't know. And so I I didn't really know what to do. I knew my parents would support me, but I was more just embarrassed. So I didn't want to tell anyone. And so it was my little secret. And so it became my little secret for a while. And I didn't really know what to do. I was looking up things for abortion, um, before even knowing if I was pregnant or not, because I was terrified to take a test, because if I was pregnant, I didn't know what to do. And so for about 2 or 3 months, I was basically keeping this secret from everybody, believing that I could be pregnant, especially because I was showing symptoms and I didn't know that phantom pregnancies existed. So, um, I was basically thinking I was pregnant. And I was really afraid. But was also in my head rationalizing it in my head, like, everything is stacked against me being pregnant, but what if, the pill didn't work? Or whatever, mind you. So, it's my 20th birthday, and I am very, very tipsy. And very, very, well, I wasn't tipsy, I was very drunk. And, unfortunately, with me being drunk, is that it's like a truth serum. The truth comes out when I'm drunk. And that has led me to a lot of, confrontations of me, uh, admitting feelings and that sort of thing. Um, but naturally, because of the truth serum, like the way alcohol likes to be with me, I ended up telling my partner at the time that, yeah, I think I'm pregnant, and start crying because I'm immediately thinking, all right, they're gonna leave me, blah, 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 which they didn't. Um, and they were like, all right, we need to go get a pregnancy test. And so the test is taken, and Lord behold, I'm not pregnant. So of course that was just a huge relief, and because of that, I end up telling my mom about it. And telling her was kind of funny because she was initially really excited and then she realized, oh shit, yeah, that would not have been good for you. And it wasn't. I'll be honest, I was considering taking myself out if things were the case that I was pregnant, especially because um there was a lot of dysphoria surrounded childbirth, and then with I was heading up to the deadline of when you could have an abortion. And because I was so scared of telling anybody, I was like, I was missing my opportunity and I basically would have to have the baby. And I was absolutely terrified. So for the longest time, again, I was thinking, it's me and this baby against the world now. And so I don't really have a choice now. I have to have the baby. Which, no, there was no baby. And so when I was telling my mom about it, And then she made me take another pregnancy test just to double check, and yeah, I wasn't pregnant. And then within like 2 days, my period comes back, which is kind of funny. Um, I mean, that just goes to show how powerful the brain and the body is. Um, and after that, I start telling people, oh, yeah, I had a phantom pregnancy, whatever. But what I wasn't telling people was that I was grieving. Because for a while, again, I thought I had a baby. When I didn't have a baby. And so there was a bit of, I guess, some sort of grief in, there was a lot of feelings surrounding that in the sense that even though I didn't have a baby, I thought I had a baby, and turns out there wasn't like that there the fact that there wasn't a baby really I felt those I still almost felt the same grief even though there was none. You know what I mean? Because for the longest time, my mind and my body was convinced that there was, and then there wasn't. And the thing is about phantom pregnancies is that they don't just affect you in the first couple of weeks. Phantom pregnancies can go on all the way up until childbirth, or going into labor, and then they find out they were never pregnant. And like, and again, they get so powerful that even it starts to mimic like the same way the embryo would be growing in terms of like weight gain and having a the appearance of being pregnant. I can't think of the actual terms. And then find out that you're not, and you'd be so convinced because again, you have the bump and you're experiencing all of these changes and stuff like that, and even going into labor, and then you find out that you're not even pregnant. Now, luckily, I never went through that, but I still felt that. And I didn't really want to tell anybody because I felt like my grief wasn't important. Because I didn't think that because it was like, oh, it's not like I had a baby and I miscarried or whatever. It turns out there was never a baby there at all. But I was going through a lot of the same sort of grief, and in doing so subconsciously, I didn't realize this only up until about maybe a few weeks ago. That in around this time, at the start of 2023, I made a new character, Kai. And around the time, I explained that, oh, Kai is like um, he's basically me as a kid, and he's basically my inner child. But I also made Kai to cope with the fact that I felt like I lost a child, even though I didn't. Um, and so I made Kai as a way to cope with that, and I didn't realize that at the time. Uh, I became very weirdly protective of Kai. I didn't really draw him. I kind of just had him as my own character, and I didn't really want to share that much art of him. When I did get art of him, he was basically kind of just for me, whatever. And I didn't really think much of it, whatever. Um, and how I started, and keep in mind, this whole grief period, I didn't tell nobody about it. I didn't tell a single soul that I was grieving at the time because I didn't feel like my grief mattered. Um, because it wasn't like a real baby. Even though I was still feeling a lot of grief and I was feeling a lot of different emotions, and I was definitely feeling a lot of I guess I can't think of another word, but I guess maternal instincts. Especially if I was around children, I would be thinking about, damn, what would it be like for me to be a dad? And that's the thing. Although I don't like pregnancy and childbirth, that doesn't mean I don't want to be a dad or I don't want to be a father. I definitely do. I just can't do through childbirth. So it's either IVF or adoption. That's the thing. I can't go through childbirth. I can't do that. But um, I still want children. And so it's not about not wanting kids. It's couldn't be farther from the truth. Um, like it was a very strange feeling. Or say I would see, couples with their children, and I'd be like, I wish that could be me. And then I'd feel that grief of, well, I thought I had a baby, and then no. And so I didn't tell a single soul about it. And then there were some family events I won't get into that brought up childbirth, and that brought up the grief. And so I talked about it with my mom, and she said that she had phantom pregnancies before she got pregnant with me. And she's like, yeah, they're really tough. And I've definitely been there. And so that made me feel like my grief wasn't like, I felt like my grief was finally validated at that point. And there was a lot of things coming up because of that. And then this year, both of my cousins had a baby within a week of each other, which is kind of funny. Um, and one of which I am dying to see. I haven't seen him yet. But and I always love seeing little Instagram or WhatsApp updates, and I can't wait to meet him. And that brought up a lot of those feelings again. So going to therapy, I finally decided to unpack, that part of my trauma, with with the phantom pregnancy, because it is traumatic. Um, and so we were talking, and the one thing my therapist loves is my characters, especially because we discussed the internal family system, which I'm going to make a video about, and that's what this whole story is about. Um, is we were talking about my characters, and she's specifically very attached to Kai because she's like, I love that you've made a persona of your inner child. I think that's great, and I was like, yeah. Um, but she really wanted me to talk more about that, and so I did talk, and then she was asking about dates. She was like, when was it around the time you had your phantom pregnancy and making Kai? Did you make Kai before the phantom pregnancy? Did you make him after? I was like, no, it was after. And she was like, how much after? And I was like, maybe about a few months. And she was like, during the grief. And that's when it finally hit me that I made Kai to cope with the fact that uh to cope with the grief of the phantom pregnancy. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. I was crying a lot that night. It's gone to the point now where, because I still feel the grief, again, it comes up in waves again around those times when, both of my cousins had a baby within a week of each other, another personal family event I'm not going to get into. And there's been times where I'd be laying there and I wish, I had a child, just to look after and be a father to and cuddle with in that sort of sense. Um, and feeling those, it's weird because again, being trans, but also being AFAB, I have an urge to say motherly instincts, even though I'm a father, but it's feeling those like maternal instincts, they kind of just don't go away, and that's what's really weird about it. being trans and then like having those, I guess, AFAB experiences. Because as soon as you bring them up, I always feel like, oh, transphobes are gonna be like a gotcha moment, you know? And no, that's just the way AFAB body works. It's an instinct. I can't just get rid of it, you know? Um, I wish it was less gendered that way, you know what I mean? But unfortunately, it is very gendered. Um, and so, you know, plushies have been a big thing, you know. There's been times where like I feel that and I'd want to just cuddle a plushie because it's, you know, it's around the same size as a baby or whatever. Um, and for my birthday this year, I had before my birthday actually, I had confided in a friend about that whole phantom pregnancy thing because uh her experience being a woman and also wanting kids. It's like it's a weird thing. It's like, yeah, I'm a trans guy and I still want kids, but I don't want to give birth. But also I went through phantom pregnancy and that was very traumatic. There's a lot of conflicting feelings about it, you know what I mean? And so I was telling her like sometimes I feel that grief and I just want something to cuddle. You know, the same way when I feel those instincts of, you know, being a parent, being a father. And so for my birthday this year, she actually made a hot water bottle cover with Kai on it. And that was really special. And it's probably one of my favorite gifts I've ever received. And it has been making me think of getting a plushie made of Kai because again, he means that much to me that I feel like it's more of like an obligation, you know? Um, but yeah, um, I don't really have much more to say about it other than if you've experienced a phantom pregnancy, is that your grief is valid and the experience is very real. The brain and the body are so interconnected with each other and they can create very powerful feelings. And so, if you've experienced the same thing, you are completely valid, and that your feeling and that your grief is valid. And if you're a trans guy, wanting to be a father doesn't make you any less of a man. Um, and you know, having those feelings of maternal instincts again, it's it feels weird bringing it up, you know, still because I'm like, oh, I feel like it's gonna be a transphobe gotcha moment, but it's also like, all right, so we're gonna gender like survival instincts, you know, you know, like we're gonna start gendering those now. Like, I realize it's stupid, but it's still kind of a thing of like, oh, this is. This feels like so I know it's something like, you know, a transphobe is definitely gonna try and use, you know. Um, but you know, it's just the way the AFAB human body can work. Because I'm not sure if every AFAB person can feel maternal instincts, but I definitely do. Um, um, and yeah, it is something that I do think about a lot about is having children. Not in the sense of giving birth, because that terrifies the shit out of me, and the dysphoria surrounding it is horrible. Um, but yeah, this video is going to be a precursor to another video I'm going to make. It's just this story I feel like deserved its own video, and would have made a lot more, make a lot more sense for me to make this video ahead of the other video I'm going to make, so that's why. But yeah, but yeah, thank you for listening to my story about talking about how I basically made a fursona to cope with the grief of having a phantom pregnancy. So, yeah. I have really nothing else more to say. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. It's a but yeah, it's it's a bittersweet thing, and it's definitely different from what I ever really would ever make. But I felt like it was a nice thing to share, I guess, and to bring more awareness to. So yeah, I don't really have anything else more to say. So I'll see you guys in the next one.